Hello, my name is Miss Jones. I teach elementary school math, and welcome to my channel, Miss Math Jones. Today we're going to be working on our STAR review homework number 1. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, number 1 says an expression is shown. 70 plus 2 plus 900. What number is equivalent? Equivalent means equal. What number is equivalent to this expression? Record your answer and fill in the bubbles on your answer document. Be sure to use the correct place value. So first, I want to fill in this place value chart. So I've created a place value chart on my screen here, and I want you to do the same on your paper. So I'm going to pause for a moment so that you can have a chance to create a place value chart on your paper. Now that you have your place value chart on your paper, let's fill it in. So first, we're going to label our ones place with an O for ones. Then we're going to label our tens place with a T for tens. We'll label our hundreds place with an H for hundreds. And we'll label our thousands place with a TH for thousands. And our 10,000s place with the TTH for 10,000s. Okay, now we have all of our places labeled in our place value chart. So let's go ahead and fill it in using the expression or the math problem that's on our paper. So we have 70. 70. Which place would the 7 from the 70 go? Would it go in the ones place, the tens place, the hundreds place, the thousands place, or the 10,000s place? 70. Well, I know that 70 is the same thing as saying 7 tens. So that 7 from the 70 is going to go in the tens place because 7 is the same thing in the tens place as saying 7 tens. Now let's look at the 2 in our expression. Well, of course, that 2 is going to go in the ones place. And the last number that's left in our expression is 900. 900. Well, the great thing about the number 900 is it tells us what place that first digit should go in. And it should go in the hundreds place because placing a 9 in the hundreds place is the same thing as saying 9 hundreds, 9 100s. All right, now we have our number in our place value chart, and that means we have our equivalence to this expression, or the number that's equal to this expression. So 70 plus 2 plus 900 is the same thing as saying 972. Now, we're going to go ahead and fill in the bubbles in the answer document. Now, you may have a answer choice or answer selection where you can place the numbers at the top and then you bubble in each individual number at the bottom. So I'm going to show you how that looks. So you just put the numbers in there in the order that they're supposed to be in. So the 9 is first, which means you're going to put the 9 in first, and then you go down and you find the number 9 and you'll click it. You're going to do the same thing for the 7 because that's the next number. So you're going to type a 7 there, and then you're going to go down to the 7 and click it. Now, on a computer, you'd be clicking. On your paper, you're going to write these numbers in and bubble them in. But I'm explaining how you do both. So on a computer, you would type in the last number, which is a 2. Then you'd go down and find the 2, and then you'd click on the 2. On your paper, you're going to write 972 in those squares at the top. And then at the bottom, you're going to bubble in the correct number that's in the square above it. Only one number per bubble. Okay, one number per column. All right, now, if you need to pause your video to make sure that your paper looks like my screen, go ahead and do so now. Number 2 says the clock shows the time a movie started. Okay, so first we have to figure out what time is shown on the clock. So remember, our shorthand tells us the hour. Now, because that shorthand is between the 10 and the 11, then what does that mean for our hour? What's the hour? If you said 10 o'clock, you're absolutely correct. So we're going to write 10. Okay, then we need our colon, right? That's what those two dots are called, colon. Now, when we are determining the minutes on a clock, okay, every big number, the large numbers, starting at the number 1, you can quickly figure it out by counting by 5s, but each dash is 1. So it's on the 2. So if we start counting by 5, starting at the number 1, 1 would be 5 minutes after, the 2 would be 10 minutes after. So we're going to write down 10. So that means that the time shown on the clock is 10:10. Now, just like in class, anything I write, you need to write because writing helps you to remember. All right? So you're going to write time shown on the clock, and on your paper, you're going to write 10:10. And there's enough space on there where you can write these little notes out to the side, but don't write huge, okay? Because your notes should be small and neat. That way you can keep track of what you're doing. Anytime there's a word problem, you need to either write it out or draw it out to make sure you keep track with what's going on in the word problem. So if we've written down the time shown on the clock, which is 10:10. Now, the movie lasted 1 hour, 15 minutes. Now, since we know that the movie lasted 1 hour, 15 minutes, we're going to write a 1 on the same side as our hour of 10, okay? So we're going to add 1 hour. Notice I keep my numbers lined up, 1 hour, and I write my colon, and 15 minutes. So we're going to write 15 on the minute side. So we're adding 1 hour and 15 minutes. And we draw our little total line here. So I want you to write the same thing that I write and make sure to keep your numbers lined up. You can treat time just like any other number. Okay, you can treat time just like any other number as long as you keep your numbers lined up to where the place values are in their correct locations, then it will be fine. Now, as always, even with time and regular numbers, we start with the ones place. So what's 0 plus 5? That's right, it's 5. And what's 1 plus 1? Good, it's 2. Now, just like we write a comma down, we bring a comma down when we're adding 4-digit numbers, the colon has to be in the right place also. Everything has to stay lined up. So I'm going to write my colon here because I'm keeping everything lined up. And you need to keep everything lined up on your paper. All right, now we're in our what would be the hundreds place at this point. And what's 0 plus 1? Good, it's 1. Very good. And 1 plus 0, because there's nothing there, is 1. Very good. So, which time is closest to the time the movie ended? Well, that would be B, 11:25, and you just shade that in. Now, if this was on a computer, you just click letter B. Pause your video and make sure your solution matches my screen. Let's take a look at number 3. Number 3 says there are 6 oranges in each of 8 bowls like the one shown. What is the total number of oranges in all 8 bowls? Okay, I see the word each, and I see a model with some oranges in a bowl. It's time for a get chart. That's what I say. It's time for a get chart. Okay, so let's reread. There are 6 oranges. Okay, 6 oranges. Well, that's not the total because it asks me for the total. It says, what is the total? So they don't know the total, which means the 6 is the groups. And in each of 8 bowls, so my each is 8, write 8 there. And my total is missing, so I have to figure that out. Now, if I write this as an equation, then it would be 6 times 8 equals, I don't know, right? I don't know my total. That's what we're trying to figure out. Now, if you know your multiples of 6 or your multiples of 8, and you know the answer for 6 times 8, awesome. If you don't, that's okay. You can create a ratio table. We've done these before. It's a review. So if you don't remember, is it okay? I'm not going to say I'm going to be happy about it because I'm not. But let's go ahead and create a ratio table now to refresh your memory. Okay? So we're going to do times 8 because it's 6 times 8, right? So times 8. And don't forget to put your little counters up there. You need 8 dots to help you count, right? And we're going to number our input side from 1 to 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So at this point, everything on my screen should be on your paper. And if you need to pause the video right now to make sure that everything on my screen is on your paper, go ahead and do so now. Okay, so now we have our ratio table representing 6 times 8. And we're going to go ahead and fill in our multiples of 8. So 1 times 8 is 8. 2 times 8 is 16. 3 times 8 is 24. 4 times 8 is 32. 5 times 8 is 40. And 6 times 8 is 48. Very good. So that means that our answer is 48. And under the total in our get chart, we're going to also write 48. So the answer that we're going to select is C. So we're going to bubble in C. Now, you may want to pause your video and make sure that your solution matches my screen. Let's take a look at number 4. Number 4 says, each model shown is shaded to represent a fraction. Which models are shaded to represent fractions equivalent to 2/4? Now remember, equivalent means equal, okay? Circle the 2 correct answers. And be very careful because there will be quite a few questions on the STAR test that has more than one answer. Those are called multiple select questions. And it says circle the 2 correct answers. So there are 2 correct answers. And we have to make sure that it's equivalent or equal to 2/4. So first, let's check to see if we see a model that represents 2/4. Now the first model, that's 1/2, right? Because 1 out of 2 pieces are shaded. Now the second model though, how many pieces are shaded? 2 pieces are shaded, that's right. 2 out of how many? 4. So that model, this second model is actually 2/4, right? That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for 2/4, so I'm definitely going to circle that one. Yep, looking for 2/4. Now, I need a model that's equal or equivalent to 2/4. Now, remember to find equivalent fractions. You can count by the same number at the top or add it to itself, and you do the same to the bottom. All right, we also call it doubling, right? So let's double it and see what happens. All right, so let's start with the numerator, which is the top number. What's 2 plus 2? 2 plus 2. If you said 4, you're absolutely correct. And we're going to go ahead and draw our fraction bar now. And we're going to do the same thing to the bottom. What's 4 plus 4? So we doubled the top. Let's double the bottom. What's 4 plus 4? If you said 8, you are absolutely correct. Now, let's take a look. Do we see a model that shows 4/8? That third model is 3 pieces shaded out of 6 pieces total. So that third model would be 3/6. Well, I'm not looking for 3/6. I'm looking for 4/8. Let's check that last model. How many pieces are shaded? Well, so far so good. We have 4 pieces shaded, right? 4 pieces shaded out of how many total pieces? 8. Well, we're in luck. That last model is 4/8. So we're going to circle that model also. Looks like we're done. We have 2 correct answers. So at this point, we've completed this question. Now, if you need to pause your video to make sure that your solution matches my screen, go ahead and do so now. Now let's take a look at number 5. Number 5 says a coach bought 12 hula hoops and 5 boxes of jump ropes. Each box has 10 jump ropes. What's the total number of toys the coach bought? Okay, well, let's start off with what we do know. And I know that your STAR test is on the computer, but you always should have scratch paper and you always should be drawing out a model or taking notes so that you can solve these word problems. So a coach bought 12 hula hoops and 5 boxes of jump ropes. That's our first sentence. So I'm just going to make a note to myself. Okay, he bought 12 hula hoops. I'm going to write 12 hula hoops. 12 hula hoops. And 5 boxes of jump ropes. Each box has 10 jump ropes. I see 5 boxes of jump ropes, and each box has 10 boxes of 10 jump ropes. So that means I need a get chart, right? Because stuff associated with those jump ropes, that's a get chart, right? Now, I want to point out before we draw a get chart that the word and usually means that you're adding, okay? So that means you have a multi-step problem. A coach bought 12 hula hoops and, that means you need to add, and 5 boxes of jump ropes. Each box has 10 jump ropes. So I need the get chart for that part of the problem. So 5 boxes would be my groups, right? 5 is my groups. And each box has 10. That would be my each. I don't know my total. I don't know my total amount of jump ropes yet. So let's go ahead and write that as an equation so we can figure out our total for jump ropes, right? So it's 5 times 10 equals, what's 5 times 10? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. You'd be up to 10 fingers at this point, right? If you're counting on your fingers. And 5 times 10 is 50. So I'm going to write 50 there and then 50 in my get chart under total. So that means that I have to add this 50 to my 12 hula hoops because it says what's the total number of toys, not just hula hoops, not just jump ropes, toys. So I'm going to go ahead and line up my numbers and add this 50 to my 12 hula hoops. All right, so you should have everything on your paper that I have on my screen, and your numbers should be lined up. And once you do that, we can go ahead and solve. Now, we always start with the ones place. Always start with the ones place. What's 2 plus 0? Well, if you said 2, you are absolutely correct. And now the tens place. What's 1 plus 5? That's right. It's 6. So your answer should be 62. And we're going to bubble in answer choice D. Now, at this point, if you need to pause your video to make sure your solution matches my screen, go ahead and do so now. Let's take a look at number 6. Number 6 says 2 rooms will be completely covered with 1-foot floor tiles. Room 1 will be covered with 6 rows of 8 tiles each. Room 2 will be covered with 7 rows of 5 tiles each. What is the area of each room in square feet? Area of room 1, blank square feet. Area of room 2, blank square feet. Okay, I know that area is length times width. But not only that, because you see 6 rows of 8 tiles each, that should remind you of an array. I see the word each, so I can also use get charts to determine how I need to set up my problems. So let's go ahead and create a get chart for room 1. And we have 6 rows, which means 6 groups, of 8 tiles each. So what's 6 times 8? Because that's going to be our problem. 6 times 8. And if I'm not mistaken, we already solved that problem in an earlier question. Matter of fact, we solved that in number 3. What was 6 times 8? If you don't remember, go back and look at your notes. Right, 6 times 8 was 48. So you're going to write it out here and make sure you put 48 under your total in your get chart, because 6 times 8 equals 48, which means we've just figured out the area of room number 1, 48 square feet. Now we can create another get chart for room number 2. All right, so it says room number 2 will be covered with 7 rows. 7 rows, 7 groups, same thing. So we're going to put a 7 under G for groups. 7 rows and 7 groups, same thing. And it said 7 rows of 5 tiles each. So the 5 is going to go under our E for each. All right, and we're going to write that out as an equation. So our equation under our get chart, this get chart, is going to be 7 times 5 equals, well, what's 7 times 5? Now, you can either count by 7s 5 times or count by 5 7 times. So a lot of you love to count by 5s because it's easy, right? So you just hold up 7 fingers, right? And you count by 5 until you've counted all 7 fingers. So that would be 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. 35. 7 times 5 is 35. So you're going to write 35 there in your equation, 35 there under your total, and your area of room 2 is 35 square feet. Perfect. Now, at this point, if you need to pause your video to make sure your solution matches my screen, go ahead and do so now. Number 7 says a group of 7 birds are shown. Yep, that's 7 birds. Some birds are black and some birds are white. Which expression represents the fraction of the group of birds that are black? All right, so I only want to know how many birds are black, and they want that expressed as a fraction. All right, now we have 7 birds. Now remember, with fractions, the total number of objects or the total number of pieces is going to be your denominator or your bottom number. So since I have 7 birds, my denominator is going to be 7. And you're going to write that on your paper also. Because again, taking notes and writing helps to build your memory. Now, my numerator is whatever I'm looking for. In this case, it's blackbirds. How many birds are black? That's right, 4. So I'm going to write 4 as my numerator. And notice I had already drawn my little fraction bar. So that means the fraction of birds that are black are 4/7. Now, I have to figure out which one of these equations of unit fractions, because remember, unit fractions have ones in the numerator, always. What equation of unit fractions represents 4/7? Okay, let's go through our answer choices. Answer choice A has 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3. Well, 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3. So that means that answer choice A, the fraction 3/3 is represented there. Am I looking for 3/3? No. So A is not our answer. Let's look at answer choice B. We have 1/7 plus 1/7 plus 1/7 plus 1/7. 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. Well, that's 4. 4/7. Am I looking for 4/7? Yes, I am looking for 4/7. So that means that the answer to this question is B. Now notice how we wrote notes before we even started looking at answer choices. I made sure to figure out what fraction I was looking for before I even looked at my answer choices. Make sure that that's what you're doing. That's why I say as soon as you start reading the question, you need to draw out or write out some notes that represent the word problem. That way, by the time you get to your answer choices, you may have already figured out your answer if you write notes or draw a model before you get to the actual question part with your answer choices. You have to write everything out because we did that quite easily. Now, at this point, if you need to pause your video to make sure you have everything on your paper that I have on my screen, go ahead and do so now. Let's take a look at number 8. Number 8 says, Claire has 12 wooden blocks. She placed the blocks into 4 equal groups. Which strip diagram shows how to find the number of blocks in each group? Now, I see the word each. I could use a Get chart. I sure could. And I'm going to create my Get chart, and then I'm going to reread my question because you should be reading word problems at least 3 times. So I'm starting from the beginning again. Claire has 12 wooden blocks. 12 wooden blocks. That sounds like my total. I'm going to write 12 for total. She placed 4 blocks into equal groups. Well, those are my groups, 4. Which strip diagram shows how to find the number of blocks in each group? So I don't know each, but I'm going to write this as an equation because I might be able to figure out the number that I'm missing if I see it that way. So since I'm missing each and I have my total and I have groups, that means this is a division problem. So I'm going to write 12 blocks divided by 4 groups is what? So let's count my groups of each of my answer choices. So for answer choice A, I have 1, 2, 3 groups. Well, it can't be A because it's in 4 groups. That's not 4 groups. So let's move on to B. For B, I have 1 group, 2 groups, 3 groups. Well, it can't be B because that's only 3 groups. So for C, let's take a look. I have 1 group, 2 groups, 3 groups, 4 groups. Now I have to figure out if this is 12 blocks. So I have to add up these 3's to see if that's 12. Because if that's 12 blocks in 4 groups, then I have my answer. So what's 3 plus 3? 6. Plus 3 more is 7, 8, 9, right? Plus 3 more is 10, 11, 12. That's 12 blocks divided by 4 groups. That means I have 3 in each group. Ha! That's my answer. So I'm going to complete my get chart and my equation. I've already wrote equals 3 in each group. I'm going to write the number 3 under E for each. And I'm going to bubble in the answer C. Now, if you need to pause your video and make sure that your solution matches my screen, go ahead and do so now. Number 9 says, Alberto works at a candy store. He is paid for the hours he works at the store. He works a different number of hours each week. Which statement is most likely to be true? Most likely to be true. A says the more hours Alberto works, the less he earns. That doesn't sound right. Let's read B. B says the fewer hours he works, the less he earns. Okay, that makes sense, because if I don't work that many hours, I won't get paid that much. It's looking like B, but let's keep reading. C says the more hours Alberto works, the less he provides the store. That doesn't make sense, because if he works a lot of hours, then he's providing a lot to the store, right? Not a little bit. I don't like that one. Let's look at D. D says the fewer hours Alberto works, the more labor he provides. Now, the word labor means the more work, okay? So that doesn't make sense either. The only one that seemed like it was right was B, but A and B kind of sound the same, right? So let me give you an example. All right, so the more hours Alberto works, the less he earns. I don't think that's true. So if he works day 1, he gets $100 for day 1, okay? For example, day 2, he gets $100. That means he earns $200 for 2 days' work. So that means that the more he works, the more he earns. So A is not true. B says the fewer hours he works, the less he earns. Well, let's see. Same amount of money, but this time he's going to work less, right? So this is my example. So for day 1, let's say he works and he gets $100. Day 2, he does not work. You don't work, you don't get any money. So put a 0 there. So that means the total earned for those 2 days would be $100. So answer choice B is true. The fewer hours Alberto works, the less money he earns. You can't get paid for doing nothing, okay? So that means that our correct answer is B. Now, if you want to pause your video and write down the examples that I wrote, you can go ahead and do so now. You don't necessarily have to write the examples. I just wanted to show you why the more you work, the more money you earn, and the less you work, the less money you earn. Number 10 says, a jar is full of nickels and dimes. There are 368 nickels in the jar. There are 109 more dimes than nickels in the jar. What is the total number of nickels and dimes in the jar? This is a multi-step problem. Now, the first sentence gives us a little information, but not enough to do anything with. So it says, a jar is full of nickels and dimes. Okay. Can't do much with that. So let's keep reading. There are 368 nickels in the jar. So I'm going to write a note to myself. Nickels. 368. I know how many nickels are in the jar. Awesome. There are 109 more dimes than nickels in the jar. Well, it doesn't tell me how many dimes there are. It just tells me that there are 109 more dimes than nickels. So I need to find out how many dimes there are before I do anything else. I need to figure that out. So I'm going to write dimes, writing a note to myself. And then to find out dimes, I have to add the nickels, 368, plus 109, because it's 109 more. More means you add. More is by itself, so you add. So I need to add 368 plus 109 to find out how many dimes I have. So let's set that up. 368 plus 109. Now, as always, make sure you keep your numbers lined up. Make sure they're lined up, okay? Because when you start adding, you need to make sure to keep your place values in the correct place. Now, as always, I start adding with my ones place. What's 8 plus 9? Well, if you said 17, you're absolutely correct. So I'm going to write my 7 in my ones place, and I'm going to carry my 1 over the tens place. And I add. What's 1 plus 6? That's correct. It's 7. So I write my 7 in the tens place. Notice everything stays lined up. Keep your numbers lined up. And now I add my hundreds place. What's 3 plus 1? That's right, 4. So now I know that I have 477 dimes. So I'm going to write 477. Dimes equals 477. All right, so far, I've read the 3 sentences, and now I need to reread everything together to make sure I've done enough to start looking at answer choices. All right, so a jar is full of nickels and dimes. Didn't get anything there from there. Second sentence, there are 368 nickels in the jar. I wrote that note down. There are 109 more dimes than nickels in the jar. I figured out how many dimes I have, which is 477. Now the question asks me, what is the total number of nickels and dimes in the jar? Now, they tried to trick you. Look at answer choice A. It says 477. If all you did was figure out how many dimes were in there and stop there without rereading that question at least 3 times, you would have gotten the wrong answer. Now we have to add nickels and dimes together. So now we're going to add 368 because that's our total for our nickels. And I always label. Always label on your scratch paper. Always label. And for my dimes, I ended up with 477. So my equation is going to be 368 plus 477. And feel free to write nickels, 368 times plus 477, just to keep everything lined up and neat, okay? Now, always start adding with your ones place. What's 8 plus 7? That's right, it's 15. So I write the 5 in my ones place, and I carry my 1. Now, what is 6 plus 7? That's right, it's 13 plus that 1. That's right, 14. So I write my 4 in my tens place, carry my 1 over my hundreds place, and I add again. What's 3 plus 4? 7 plus 1 more. That's right, it's 8. So that means the total number of dimes and nickels is 845, which is answer choice B. Now, again, be careful. Always read the problem or the question at least 3 times. Always. There's always going to be an answer that's waiting there to trick you just in case you're being lazy. Okay? Now, at this point, you might want to pause your video and make sure your solution matches my screen. Congratulations, your STAR review homework number 1 is complete. Give yourself a little happy dance. Oh, there it is. As always, I hope this video has helped you to complete your homework correctly. I hope this video has helped you in some way. And I hope you have a great rest of your evening or day whenever you're watching this video. As always with math, please check your work. And with word problems, read them at least 3 times. Your math has to be mathing. Well, this is Miss Jones saying bye. Until next time.